with the International League of People's Struggle, ILPS Commission 6, the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty, or PCFS, and the Pesticide Action Network Asia Pacific, or PAN-AP. My name is Bianca. I'm with the Asian Peasant Coalition, and I will be facilitating tonight's activity program. So the Day of the Landless is meant to bring to fore the urgent issues and crises on land faced by the peasantry, rural peoples, and indigenous peoples, especially in the Global South. So this activity is with optional interpretations in Bahasa, Portuguese, Spanish, and French. So to access the interpretation, please click on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen. This is available on Zoom only, so you can choose the language you prefer. For those of us on Facebook, to access the interpretation options, you will need to join us on Zoom. And then to begin the program, I would like to call on Rafael Mariano, the Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, or Peasant Movement of the Philippines Chairman Emeritus, and the lead of Commission 6 of the ILPS, to open the program. Kapang, you have 5 minutes to open the program po.
Thank you, Bianca. A warm greetings of solidarity to everyone. The ILPS Commission 6, the Asian Peasant Coalition, the PCFS, or the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty, and the Pesticide Action Network, Asia and the Pacific, co-organized and co-host this Global Landless Speakout that brings together movements, organizations, and networks from Asia, Latin America, and Africa to highlight the pressing peasant struggles and campaigns currently unfolding in these regions. These movements will share their on-the-ground experiences, detailing the challenges faced by peasant and rural communities as they confront issues and problems such as landlessness, land dispossession, exploitation, repression, economic inequality, and environmental destruction. These powerful testimonies will shed light on the collective actions and initiatives of rural toiling masses fighting for land, justice, and self-determination. This global speak out culminates the Day of the Landless Global Campaign 2025. To hear from peasants from all over the world and show solidarity as they speak out against imperialist plunder, war, and militarism. The speak out speakers will also be sharing the synthesis on the Landless Voices, Land and Climate Change consultation during the program. We are inviting your active and lively participation and interaction to this Global Landless Speak Out. We welcome you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kapaeng, for your opening remarks. Now let's hear from Azra Talit Saeed from the Roots for Equity Pakistan, and also the Secretary General of the International League of People's Struggle.
Good morning and good evening, friends and comrades. It is my honor to be speaking at this event where we commemorate the Day of the Landless. We mark this day as a reaffirmation to expose and fight for the right of the peasantry to the collective ownership of agricultural land. Our calls, most importantly our fights, have to be based on a united front of the various forces of the people to resist against imperialist control and plunder. Our militant responses are for the liberation of our land and resources, breaking the shackles of persistent, deadly colonialism. Today, over 2 billion people live in rural areas across the three continents who have been colonized in the past and can largely be considered semi-colonial, semi-feudal, even today in the 21st century. A vast majority of the rural population across the continents of Africa, Asia, and South America are largely landless. The percentages could be as high as 90%, which fully reflects the colonial history of our continents. The brutality of the colonial rule is exemplified by the treatment of the colonial rulers who did not hesitate to cut off our limbs, our hands, our feet, if it did not provide the target harvest as demanded by the barbaric rulers, who in essence retained control of our lands, of our oceans and rivers, of our total resources to this day. The exploitation and oppression of the imperialist countries continue in new forms of colonial rule, often explained through the semi-colonial, semi-feudal mode of production. Today, imperialism, especially US imperialism and its allies, leave our masses, especially the rural landless communities, suffering from poverty and misery. The small and landless farmers, with their land being appropriated by brutal forces employed by national elite, using violent state power and with no means of regular livelihood, these peasants are forced to eke out hunger wages for which they have to engage in massive amount of work that yields astronomical wealth through abundant agriculture production, but all for the appropriation by monopoly capital and the comprador bourgeoisie and bureaucratic capital. It is of critical importance to emphasize the strong parasitic relationship of the bourgeoisie compradors and bureaucratic capitalists of our countries with the imperialist powers, whether they be from the United States or China or Russia. The current situation of a mass majority of landless farmers across Asia, Africa, and Latin America could not have happened without the richest 1% elite of our countries who have been instrumental in the development and implementation of international laws and agreements, providing monopoly capital, the so-called legal mechanisms to steal the labor of our peasants and the working class, as well as plunder the rich bounty of our lands. Let me provide some details. In Pakistan, the land which is tilled by the peasants, majority of whom are women, are rich, fertile lands. Pakistan is considered among top 10 countries in producing wheat, rice, sugarcane, cotton, dairy, and many different fruits. Livestock sector has contributed more than 60% to the agriculture sector last year. In total, the agriculture sector contributes 25% in the country's GDP. But who owns the land in this country? Today, only 5% of feudal landlords own 64% of the total agricultural land in the country. In other words, 95% of peasantry owns only 36% of land, and then less than 2% women own any land. At the time of the so-called independence in 1947, 7% of feudal landlords owned 50% of land. These figures are testimony to the fact that in the past 78 years, land concentration in the hands of the feudal elites have strengthened immensely. Food insecurity and food inflation is rampant in the country, with poverty figures ranging from 30 to 70% in different parts of the country. What is being stated for Pakistan is no exception. The rural populations across the continent suffer from agrochemical aggression imposed by transnational corporations, seeking not only markets for their toxic inputs, but also increasing harvests that are sold off by the compradors, sharing the profits among these two parasitic classes. That is the compradors and the imperialists. Apart from the agrochemical giants such as Corteva, Bayer, Sinochem, and others, one also needs to look at other corporations such as PepsiCo and Nestle, who have been investing heavily in agrochemical production. PepsiCo claims to be promoting sustainable agriculture on 7 million acres of land globally, producing crops and ingredients for its snack foods. Please mind, they do not produce food, only junk food. In Pakistan, 20,000 acres of land is being utilized for production of potatoes, for its highly unhealthy snack, Lay's potato chips. PepsiCo is also one of the largest buyers of palm oil for its snack food production. Our comrades from Indonesia have fought against palm oil plantations for its as it causes forceful evacuation of peasantry from their lands and communities. But at the same time, it also causes deadly impact on human health and environment across the countries in Southeast Asia. Similarly, Nestle has been encroaching on farmlands for using fruits and dry fruits and dairy products, as well as scarce water resources for their so-called mineral water. But it is not only corporations that are stealing land from the peasantry. There are other forms of capital that are also playing a critical role. For instance, the Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association of America, TIAA, has invested heavily in agricultural land in Brazil. It has bought land illegally through corrupt practices involving gangs. And even after selling off land when it was challenged for its role in land grabbing, it continues to own more than 1 million acres of farmland and timber in Brazil. Across the continents, corporations are pushing for the production of agrofuels such as maize and sugarcane for biogas and ethanol production. Only a couple of days ago at the Foodsoft webinar hosted by Africa ILPS, activists from Zambia have pointed out that instead of promoting agroecology for yielding nutritious traditional crops like cassava, millet, and sorghum, farmers are being pushed to produce maize based on industrialized agrochemical monocropping methods of production. No need to point out that these crops call for mechanization of vast farmlands that further pushes out farmers from their land. These corporations, including retirement fund schemes and other phases of monopoly capital, who ensure through institutions like IMF, the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, and a plethora of other corrupt, corrosive institutions, development and implementation of imperialist international legal mechanisms for controlling our land, our waters, seeds, livestock, rivers, seas, and oceans. Apart from the notorious TRIPS agreement on intellectual property rights in the World Trade Organization, the latest agreement on the table are now amendments proposed by the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, demanding expanding the scope of the treaty to cover all plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. That may show a potential value for food and agriculture. Up till now, only a truncated list of genetic resources were included in this treaty for this purpose. In short, the aim of the amendment is to the treaty is to ensure control over all seeds and genetic material for amassing profits for monopoly capital. This list of corporations and institutions is not exhaustive and needs much further social investigation to expose and resist their fascist exploitative mechanisms which have pushed peasants off their land, forcing them to live a life of drudgery, hunger, and misery in their own countries, but also then they are forced as migrant workers when they try to find a better livelihood for themselves and their families. Let me move to the matter of escalation of wars and militarism. The new century was initiated with the intense increase in wars of aggression with 9/11, the pretext. Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and now occupied Palestine have been bombed violently and viciously with puppet regimes installed, serving well the economic and political aims of the US. It is now clear that there are new global tensions arising among the imperialists, while the US has three basic targets that it wants to eliminate. These include Iran, along with the axis of resistance, Russia, and the third, US's most formidable competitor, China. I will focus my attention on how do these wars impact the peasantry. The most basic and the most critical element remains land, which includes ancestral land of indigenous people across the continents. Apart from the obvious wealth generated through agriculture production, there is now another heightened factor for control of our land and territories. Land holds the mines and minerals that are critical for weapons production, as well as for the massive energy needs of profit-greedy, advanced industrialized countries. Last year, a list of the most critical minerals for weapons production was released with the assistance of NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Among the high-risk, high-impact weapon manufacturing materials, aluminium and graphite are on top of the list. These minerals are used to build fighter aircrafts, maritime patrol, unmanned helicopters, tanks, amphibious assault ships, and a plethora of other so-called defense materials. Or we can say more truthfully, for genocidal purposes. In the case of graphite, China dominates 69% of the global production, with the second biggest producer being India, which has 12%, and third one, Brazil, which has 8%. As economic and military tensions between the US and China, as well as Europe heightens, the fight for the control over these minerals is also going to escalate. The current fascist attack on Adivasis in India is related to the presence of bauxite on the land. Bauxite is the primary ore from which aluminium is extracted, and it is the world's main source of aluminium. India has abundant resources of bauxite, with estimated reserves of around 830 million tons. Among the major bauxite producing states, Orissa is the largest producer of bauxite in India, contributing approximately 50% to the country's total bauxite production, amounting to more than 300,000 tons. The Indian billionaire Adani, who has been collaborating with Zionists in Israel in ammunition production, has also obtained mining rights in Orissa. Similarly, in Bastar, Chhattisgarh, the Indian state has been carrying out brutal attacks, including aerial bombings, with the aim of making the rural communities evacuate lands rich in bauxite. According to reports, more than 250 security camps have been established to provide security to the mining corporations in the region. Communities, when they protest against encroachment over their land for building roads, are arrested, and many are killed. And of course, those who are killed are always termed as Naxalites or communists. And that is the justification that is provided by the state for killing innocent people. However, it is critical to point out that it is not only land that monopoly capital is seeking, there is also a thrust for deep sea mining. According to the United States government, these minerals play an important role in the US economy, contributing to industries such as transportation, defense, aerospace, electronics, healthcare, others. The International Energy Agency expects demand for cobalt, copper, nickel, and rare earth elements to at least double or possibly more than triple within the next 20 years. The Pacific Ocean has been heavily militarized by the US Navy and Coast Guard under the pretext of controlling illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing and forced labor. According to US authorities, fisheries resources are considered a key export item by the US. A key reason for militarizing the Pacific is to encircle China, although the pretext of fishing is also being used, and no doubt fishing remains a very valuable export item for the Americans. However, the immediate impact is borne by the small-scale fisherfolk of Pacific Island states, the Philippines, Indonesia, and others. I would like to add that on one hand, for energy needs, mines and minerals are being excavated, but at the same time, the monopoly capital's so-called renewable energy technologies, such as solar panels, windmills, and agrofuels, have taken over millions of acres of precious land needed for food production, livelihood, and housing of rural people. Now, apart from lakes, solar panels are also being floated on sea and oceans, encroaching on the livelihood spaces of small fisher folk. The final link between minerals is their use for digital technology. Many of the rare earth metals that are being extracted from our lands and waters are used for digital technology. Not only this technology is used for spyware, targeting our freedom fighters, but also being used in rural areas for, on one hand, military drones, and as well for developing robots, which are used to turn our farmlands for industrial production. This industrial production is not for the development and technological advancement of our countries and of our people, but for the rich countries of the industrialized North. We are being used as exploited and land territories, using the peasantry and the working class, including the millions of forced migrant workers, as nothing better than slave labor. The plunder of our resources and our oppression is for continued industrialization and developing of the industrialized countries of the North, as I already said. But of course, the story does not end here. Over centuries, monopoly capital has had to face the resistance of the peasantry. Not only do we have the example of Gaza's liberation struggle, but across the globe, there is an abundance of organized resistance, including armed resistance against imperialism. The farmlands of the Philippines have been under constant attack by United States imperialism. But the rural communities fighting for the land and livelihood have never bowed down to the brutal state forces, who are nothing but the goons of world's #1 terrorist, the United States of America. The Lumad struggle over indigenous lands against mining corporations, of course, comes immediately to mind. In Argentina, Brazil, and across South America, peasant struggles abound against corporate land grab. British troops that maintain occupation like presence in Kenya have been fought against for their exploitation, especially environmental damage to communal lands. Finally, I would also like to share a militant struggle from Pakistan Kisan Mazdoor Tehreek, Landless Farmers Alliance. In Peshawar, which is north of Pakistan, just next to Afghanistan, peasants were being forced off land they had tilled for more than a century. These farmers decided to resist. Apart from a militant struggle against a feudal lord, they fought a case in the courts filed by the landlord demanding their eviction. These brave militant peasants have up till now been able to keep their land, though after losing his case, the landlord threatened them with the use of gang force and has now filed a case in the Supreme Court of Pakistan. I would also like to talk about a similar case filed by PepsiCo in India against farmers on charges of stealing its potato seed. And PepsiCo also lost this case in India. The lessons to take from militant and legal struggles is to use all means of struggle for the liberation of our land and oceans. The national liberation struggle will, of course, come at a cost. Over generations, we have already proved. We have
Hello.
already.
We have time to. We will be given time to talk because we can use all the.
Over generations, we have already proved that we are prepared to pay the cost for our liberation, for our dignity, and oppose and defeat the dominant imperialist class. We need to unite our forces, develop alliances across the different sectors. May they be workers, migrant workers, women, youth, health workers, and teachers, lawyers. They are all critical to win back our lands, our genetic resources, to engage in militant struggle for a future free from exploitation and plunder, of monopoly capital, free from genocidal wars, of a world that is based on just and lasting peace. I thank you, friends, for giving me the honor of speaking to the most militant of our forces, the landless peasantry. Thank you.
Thank you, Azra. Thank you, Azra and Caps, for staying within time and for giving us an overview of why today we need to mark and bring to fore the cause of the peasantry for land and how central it is to struggles in the global south, and how central land is to most resources that are being taken from the people of the global south for the enrichment of the global north, mostly. Um, and it reminds us how justified it is for the people to rightly take back what is theirs. So now I will proceed to the next section of the program. But before I do so, I would like to kindly remind our following speakers to please uh, talk a bit slowly so that the interpreters can better uh, translate from English to different interpretations, which I would like to remind everyone in the Zoom who have joined us. There is an option for interpretations in Bahasa, Portuguese, Spanish, and French, which you may access by clicking the globe at the bottom of your screen. So now I will move to call on Mrudula Poguri from India's National Alliance of Agriculture Allied Workers Union and PCFS Asia to share with us the results of their consultations on landless voices, land, and climate change. Mrudula, you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Good day and evening, everyone. My name is Mrudula from Navu, and it is my pleasure to share with you the outcomes of the Landless Voices Land and Climate Change consultation held last Tuesday, March the 25th. One of the common points from the sharing of the participants in the land grabs by development aggression projects such as mega dams, port extractives, mining, but there are also projects that are now posing as climate friendly or claimed as climate solutions. These are called carbon projects, which are corporate-led climate solutions, are specified for the carbon capture to supposedly help carbon dioxide that warms our planet. In many countries, these projects are publicly financed and incentivized as pushed by international finance institutions like the IMF, WP. Climate action is now being used as a cover-up to grab our lands and profit from it. One stark example is the northern Kenya Renga land carbon project, the world's largest soil carbon removal project that has displaced forest people, glacial communities in Kenya in the name of conservation. In many countries like India, there are also plantations, biofuels as renewable listening soil and disposed farmers from the land or rural areas. Agriculture workers in these plantations earn meager wages and face unsafe working conditions. Coastal areas waters are not exempt. Blue carbon projects like mangrove restoration and demarcation of marine protected areas restrict of small fisher folks or their fishing rights, which are already happening in India, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Maharashtra, and suburbans. These projects take pride or modernize land grabbing. In Pakistan, the government has launched the Green Pakistan initiative that makes use of digitalization, a geographical information system to manage land, water, and other natural resources toward upscaling. It covers 1.94 million hectares of land for new farming, which promotes the adoption of modern farming techniques. also known as genetically modified seeds and agrochemicals. To boost productivity with sustainable development, these sustainability projects therefore relies on the technology from their transitional corporations. Land use conservation has also become rampant in many countries to facilitate the entry of carbon projects as land investments, such as in the case of Philippines, wherein agricultural lands are being converted into other uses. In central Luzon, agricultural lands are converted into other uses to pave the way for the Central Luzon Development Plan. Naturally, communities resist these projects, and they are always met with fascist attacks and repressions, resulting in countless state-penetrated human rights violence. Nevertheless, rural people's movements carry on our lands, water, and natural resources from imperialist plunder. From holding militant action to the promotion of agroecology, peasants are racing for land. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mridula, for clearly linking land and the co-optation of taking in resources for so-called solving the climate crisis. So now I proceed to sort of the main part of this program, which is the speak out portions that will come from various regions of the world. I would like to request our tech for this portion, but we will begin the speak out on the region of Asia, and we will be shown video presentations from the Alyansa ng Magbubukid sa Gitnang Luzon, or the Alliance of Farm Workers in Central Luzon, Philippines, and from India, from Tamil Nadu Women's Movement.
Tagapagsalita ng Sitio-Balubad, Barangay Anunas, Angeles City po. Kami po ay naging biktima ng demolisyon sa Anunas noong March 12, 2024. Nakaranas po ang aming mga magsasaka. Nang pagbabarilin po kami at wasakin ang aming mga bahay, kahit kami nasa loob pa ay binabako po yung mga nakikita nilang hindi nagsiself-demolish. Kami po ay bayad ng full payment sa Land Bank of the Philippines. Lahat po ng aming magsasaka ay binubungkal ang lupa halos 30 years na. Pero ang nangyari po sa amin ay ginawa po kaming parang mga hayop na binabaril, tinututukan ng mga samurai para po kami ay magsialis sa aming mga bahay. Namatay po ang isa naming kasama at ngayon po ay wala na kami sa Sitio-Balubad. Pero po sa ganitong pagkakataon, at nais po namin talagang ilaban at ibalik ang 73 hectares. Kaya po nandito kami at nagpapasalamat sa mga tumutulong para po masingil namin at mabigyan kami ng hustisya. At nang makita po ng DAR kung ano po ang ginawa nila sa aming mga klowa na pinayaran po namin ng buo ang pagkakautang sa landbank. Hanggang ngayon po ay wala kaming makuhang sagot. Katulad kahapon, dumating si Jose Galit, ang akala po namin masusolusyonan yung problema nating nandito. Ang masakit po dito, pagkayari po ng dalawang may problema, ang Tinang po at saka po ang Sambales, naiwan po kami ng Hacienda Luisita. Iniwanan niya po kami, hindi na po kami hinarap. Pero hindi po kami mawawalan ng pag-asa. Dahil po lahat ng nagbuwis ng buhay sa Sitio Baluban ay nangangailangan po ng hustisya. Kaya po lahat ng nandyan sa DAR, hindi po kami para lang makipaglaro sa inyo. Kundi para po sinilin kayo sa lahat ng dugo at luha na iniluha ng mga farmers. Hindi lang po sa Angeles, hindi lang po ang Sitio Baluban, halos po ang Region 3 po nagmamakaawa sa inyo. Pero kayo po nagpapakasasa sa pagbebenta ng lupa sa mga mayayaman. Kaya nandito po kami, kahit po sabihin buhay pa ang kapalit dahil yun po ang kinuha niyo sa amin. Tatayuan po namin hanggang sa huli, hanggang mabalik yung mga lupa na para sa mga magsasaka. Maraming salamat.
தமிழ்நாடு தலித் பெண்கள் இயக்கம்
Santi from Tamil Nadu Dalit Women's Movement in Tamil Nadu, India. Dalit women, no land, low wages, unemployment and migrating to other places. They are take care of mango orchards, they are take care of domestic work and construction work, no protect where they work. They are facing violence, more violence. There is Tamil Nadu government under Land Reform Act, 2 acres of land, Dalit women, name in Dalit women. Today, the land given are taken away from 2 other caste people. They are bonded labor in the mango orchards. They are not the head of the family. Panjami land given to Dalit women, Dalit people, 12 lakhs of land in 18th century. Is also take away from Dalit. Now it is hand up other community. Land grab is taking places by corporate, by special economic zone, new building airport, new highways road and building also. So workers bonded laborers because they do not have no land. The Tamil Nadu government is also with the policy do not concentrate on distribution of land for Dalit women, but also welfare schemes only. The schemes also showing mission training. They are facing in following schemes only. Land property means only for men, not to women. Even the house owned by the Dalit women. They are not the head of the family. It is Dalit women are more than 96% are work and producing food. The land distribution, land reform, inheritance for women, own land, but all in paper, not implemented. Dalit women should own land to feed the family, the community through producing millets, grain, nutrition, healthy food. Women should be recognized as farmers. And children and old people will be fed with nutrition food. Get land, it will help the children get good education. Dalit women should have land, water, credit, seeds, all the resources to produce food. And Dalit women to empower the economic status. Dalit women cannot participate in public affairs under Land Reform Act. The no respect if there is no land to Dalit women. Dalit women are demanding in every village panchayat government land should be given to Dalit women to form collective farm. Dalit women should be landed so that real agricultural workers, sustainable long-term food security will be promised to their community. Tamil Nadu Dalit Women's Movement is promoting collective farm by Dalit women, taking the wasteland from the government and forming their own collective farms. Dalit women demands land rights and political rights and food security.
Okay, thank you so much for the two videos that we have just seen from the Philippines and Tamil Nadu, India. Before I call on the next speaker from Indonesia, I would like to first ask for a few moments of silence as we remember and pay respects to those we have lost in the massive earthquake that happened and affected people in Myanmar and Thailand. Okay. For the last speaker, for Speak Out Asia, I would like to call on Sandy from Agra, Indonesia. Please turn the interpretation to English or Bahasa to hear Sandy. Sandy, you have 5 minutes. Please talk slowly so that our interpreters can catch up. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca, for the time, and thank you for everyone, also all of the comrades. Our solidarity from Indonesia. I would like to share about how the new regime of our governments now, Prabowo Subianto, program to drive Indonesia on his administration. On this setting, what I would like to say is that to share the situation of Indonesian food and agriculture agrarian policies under Prabowo administrations related to the securitizations of national food and energy, rising fascism, land and natural resources grabbing. On this program, President Prabowo has set up the food and energy policies as the top priorities of his program. These two ambitious national food and energy security programs are targeted at achieving national food self-sufficient by 2026 and increasing added value in the industrial sector to achieve the national economic growth target of 8% by 2029. In addition to targeting food security, the main economic growth driver is fake industrializations project of processing 28 global leading commodity products, covering 8 clusters, including mineral, coals, oil, gas, plantations, marine fisheries, and forestry. Related to the food programs, we conclude that the food programs in Indonesia as the food fascisms, where the food system can become the appeal and greedy projects in the hands of the corporations and police and military. The accelerations of the Prabowo regime's food security programs, released on an agriculture extensifications program, drought paddy field creating project, and put state wrapped in a national strategic project, or we call PSN. The project is being implemented on a target of 4 million hectares of land in forested areas in Sumatra, Kalimantan, and Papua. The food estate project, which has proven to be a repeated pilot program from the times of the fascist Suharto regime to Joko Widodo, is now being continued to fill the grand illusions of the national food security and make Indonesians as the world's food barn. For the umpteenth time, the Prabowo regimes relying on the collaborative power between corporations and national military and national police as the script of his program on this food program. This project is already underway, such as in Merauke, Papua, with 2 million hectares of paddy fields and 1 million hectares of runs by national military, and the rest are sugarcane and bioethanol plantation. In addition to being supported by the John Lin Group, a private company owned by conglomerate or Andi Samsudin Arshad, throughout PT John Lin, 10 major sugar industry corporations, or as we know, that is shell companies, are connected to LAC Corporation stock as the PT Global Papua Abadi, PT Duta Mas Resources International, Pas Resources, Wilmart International, etc. As for food estate, all and new corporations are also plundering land and enjoying high profit, such as Jaffa Company and Sumitomo Forestry. Those are the two biggest companies, those who grab the biggest profit on this project in Papua. The other hand, the National Police of Indonesia has also undertaken the developments of one state with target area is 1.7 million hectares. The project is already underway in 8 village, Kamtuk District, Jayapura, Papua. This program is growing corn among Papuan who have no experience growing corn as long as their life. The food estate project in Papua not only says or create the living space of the customary land of the Papuan indigenous people, but also destroy the diversity of local food system that are considered the traditional and backward. The food politics under Prabowo regime is part of a strategy of the General People's Defense and Counterinsurgency, similar to that his fascist predecessor, Suharto, or the presidents during the new era. The expansions of the role of the police and military in the food sector continues to be strengthened with the legitimacy of new regulations under new regulations of the military laws, and soon to be followed by the revisions of the police laws to ensure control and operations can be carried out with weapons to push the peoples to succeed to support and succeed this program.
Sorry,
This
Comrade,
includes the control of large-scale plantation.
You have 2
Thank
minutes.
Yes, a little bit more. Okay. This include the control of large-scale plantations like Agrinas Palma, Nusantara, and under Minister of Defense, a new company that controls hundreds of thousands of hectare oil plantations, and is run by active soldier as the result of the explorations of asset, all landlord who wants bankrupt and work out in corruption. And then the third is about the energy security, with in essence is semi-processing of various mines that deprivation Indonesian natural resources. This is also being now increasing to develop and to be extended, which is now actively affected the peoples and exploited the natural resources of the people, especially the peasants, indigenous peoples, and the general peoples in the rural areas. And what we are going to do now to strengthen our struggle is now we are massively to strengthen our consolidations and intensifying our organizing work to arouse, organize, and mobilize the peoples to strengthen our struggles for the genuine agrarian reform is the genuine way to free and liberate the peasants and the general peoples of Indonesia. Thank you very much, and long live international solidarity.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sandy. So that wraps up the Speak Out on the Asian region. We have heard from the Philippines, India, and Indonesia, where farmers, Dalit women, and farmers and indigenous peoples are all collectively struggling for land, resources, and rightfully resisting the exploitative practices where governments and private corporations are collaborating for their private profit. We will now be turning to the Speak Out on Latin American region. But before we do that, we would like to present a performance by the Barangay Pesante Combo, a cultural group advocating for peasant rights in the Philippines. And this is their cultural contribution. It's a song about taking back land and fighting for land by farmers and peasants.
Land to the tillers. Long live international solidarity.
Hindi ba naiisip
Thank you very much. I would like to, before I move on to the next region, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Nahendra Khadka, who is representing the All Nepal's Peasant Federation Revolutionary Center from Nepal. He is in the Zoom now, but I don't know if he's able to speak. So for now, I will move to proceed with the program as prepared. Now we move to the Speak Out Latin America. And we will be hearing from representatives of Movimento dos Trabajadores Rurais Sem Terra, MST Brazil, and Federación Nacional Campesina of Paraguay. I will call on first Dandara Pinto from MST Brazil, who will have 5 minutes to give the presentation. For interpretations, again, you may choose the language you need by clicking on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen and choosing the language you prefer. Dandara, before you begin, I would like to kindly ask you to please speak slowly so that our interpreters can follow. Thank you.
I'll do my very best. Good morning, comrades. It's morning over here in Brazil. First of all, I'm very touched by the presentation we just saw. I would like very much to have access to that video if possible. But we would like to thank you for having us for this invitation, because for us in Brazil, in MST, these such forums of international solidarity, international exchange are fundamental, are key to our anti-capitalistic struggle in the world. So we are very honored to be here in this day. I am Dandara. Again, I represent here MST, which is the landless workers of a movement of Brazil, Movimento dos Trabalhadores Rurais Sem Terra, in Portuguese, which is a movement that organizes, has been organizing for 41 years now, the landless workers, the peasantry that have been expelled from their land, to struggle for land, for agrarian reform, and as of late, we've been talking about people's agrarian reform, and for socialism. Those are the three goals that have been established when we were founded as a movement, and to this day, they are our strategic horizon still. So for us, the struggle for land, the struggle for agrarian reform, and for socialism, for structural changes, they are impossible to separate. Because for us, especially now that we've been talking about people's agrarian reform, it is so much more than just the redistribution, of land. Although this is a key component of agrarian reform, especially here in Brazil, as many other countries in the global south, we have never had classic capitalistic agrarian reform to supposedly develop our country. So our land concentration in Brazil is extreme, is one of the biggest in the world. It's estimated that nowadays around 1% of the landowners own around 50% of the farmland in Brazil. So of course, this level of concentration means that, for one, land is in the center of the economical and political scenario in Brazil. So every struggle for the democratization of access to the land is a structural struggle in the sense. And it means, second of all, that there's a mass of people that come from the land but have become landless through expropriation, through land grabbing by big landowners and big corporations, often illegally, which means that we have a mass to organize that wishes to go back to the land and are in the margins of capitalistic market, of capitalistic society in the big cities, in the urban areas. And so for us, people's agrarian reform means structural changes to society, not only to the countryside of Brazil, but to society as a whole. It means transformation in the way we organize labor. We organize the social relationships that emerge from such labor, and in the way of life, in the set of values that organize our relationships in society. MST, I'm trying to stay on time, it's almost over, but MST organizes this peasantry, these landless workers, mainly through occupation of land. So we organize the families, we organize processes of political education with those families, because we do understand that the working class, which includes the peasantry, of course, needs to be politically conscious in order to change the country. We organize these families to occupy land. We occupy land that have been, for example, is not productive, or is not, or has some accusation of environmental crime, slavery, enslaved work, or that overall doesn't comply with its social function as per the Constitution of Brazil. The Constitution says that any land that doesn't comply with the social function must be sent to agrarian reform policies, but of course it doesn't happen. So we occupy land for two main reasons, of course, for the families to have access to the land, those families to recreate their lives in a more dignified way, to have a place to live, to have a place to work, and to produce food. But on the other hand, is also a political tool to exert pressure my 5 minutes. Can I just conclude?
It's okay. Go ahead. I'll give you 2 more minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. But then as a political tool to exert pressure in especially the government agencies that are responsible for the policies of agrarian reform, that doesn't happen. But also to put to society 2 things. First, to put agrarian reform in the general agenda of society, because it's something that interests the public in general, even in the urban areas, especially when it comes to food and to the environmental crisis that we are living through right now. And it's not in the agenda. So the land occupation is also a tool to project agrarian reform as an alternative, and also to show to society as a whole that another way of life is possible. So in those land that we occupy, we try and recreate life in a more collective manner based on values of solidarity, of humanism, of collectivity, and to comply with our historical duty as peasants, which is to grow food in an environmental conscious manner, in harmony with nature through agroecology, food that is diverse, is plentiful, and is healthy to feed the population. So to project to society also that we can organize life in another manner, a more collective and more and focused on life instead of profit. So just to conclude, some data. In these 41 years, MST has had many people, millions of people organized. We have now 400,000 families in settlements that have had the right to land recognized by the state, so around 400,000 families. On the other hand, we have still 70,000 families, around 70,000, that are still in camps, awaiting, struggling for the right to ownership of that land to be recognized. And in those areas that MST organizes, we have around 2,000 schools that focus on education based on the reality of the countryside, of the peasants, of the peasant children. We have around almost 200 cooperatives to organize our production of food and our distribution and consumption of food in a more collective manner. We have we are today present in 24 states in Brazil, and all this organization has allowed us to donate during the pandemic 9,000 tons of food during the pandemic to the people of the urban areas. And of course, right now we are, because the environmental crisis is in the center of also of the debate of the agrarian reform, people's agrarian reform, and of society as a whole. One of the actions MST is taking is a project to plant 100 million trees in 10 years. So it's been 4 years of this project, and we have planted around 10 million trees thus far, because we understand that if we don't regard the environmental question with the utmost priority, then there will be no planet, there will be no humanity to reorganize and to change, to transform. So just 5 minutes, it is a challenge to broach such a gigantic, deeply rooted subject. But just to conclude, to say that MST stands in solidarity with the struggles of the peasantry of the world and with the working class of the world. And our doors are open. We hope to see you in Brazil eventually. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you, Comrade Dandara, for your presentation. Now I would like to call on Rosalino Lopez, Secretary General of the Federación Nacional Campesina from Paraguay. Comrade, please try to speak slowly again. And for interpretation preference, everyone please refer to the globe icon at the bottom of your screen and choose your language. Thank you. Rosalino, go ahead.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and to be able to participate today with all of you. My greetings to all of you. I'll try to explain in the most simple ways possible the issue we're facing in those 5 minutes. The situation we're facing in Paraguay from the perspective of a national peasant federation, we consider that the main issue, the main economic issue, is inequality. Inequality over the ownership of the land. Our Gini indicator, according to statistic about land ownership, is around 9. So 60% of the land of our country is in the hands of 2% of landowners. What does that mean? It means that they have millions of actors in their powers. There's 100,000 of indigenous and peasant families that don't even have a piece of land in order to grow food, in order to build a house. So for us, this is the main issue that has a lot of impact. If someone can deal with an open mic, that's someone has opened. Thank you. So, in our country, we're facing other specific issues that authorities need to face. We are importing 60% of fruits and vegetables from other countries. We're depending. This is a food sovereignty problem we're facing. We're not eating what we're producing. Because the state has been promoting just one type of production. We have two models here in the country. We have mechanical industrialized that destroys industrialized production pollute water, pollute soils. And every year, industrialized production use more than 60 million tons of agrochemicals in the soils. The only thing it does, it destroys land. On the other side, we have family production, peasant production that produce food. The industrial model are dedicated to land grab, and they take the land from the small families. It's something that is not even. It's food that is exported. So basically, you have industrial model grabbing land from family peasant to export the products and the food. That's why our National Peasant Federation, it's been more than 30 years of struggle for agrarian reform in our country. We need a reform, a land reform. And I know it's something globally. I've been hearing all of you. And we need to get together to be stronger, to face land grab, because we're facing land grab globally and it's getting worse. And we need to fight together. This is why it's so important for us to be here today, to be here in order to be able to see the big picture of the problem and to understand what's going on in Paraguay by understanding what's going on globally. The National Peasant Federation has been able to take back 300,000 hectares of land through direct action and occupation, taking back the land. And this is our way to access land. Because the government do not even try to give land back to the peasant. So we need to do it while the state actually organize land grabs and eviction. We have several peasant camps where we produce food for national consumption. For us, this is the path. This is our mission. Opposing the main discourse of the authority here, we propose another model. We go against that exportation model that they've been imposing on the land. But they just produce for exportation and destroy land. That's why the National Peasant Federation fight and will keep up the fight so that peasant and indigenous community can access a piece of land in order to produce food and to be able to have a dignified life. So I want to thank you all to give us this opportunity to share, to listen, to make sure that we can see what's going on in our country and let you know about it. So from the National Peasant Federation, we want to thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Comrade Rosalino. And thank you again, Comrade Dandara, for sharing the experiences and really the victory of collective farmers' movements through land occupation happening and unfolding continuously in Latin America. We commend the efforts of our comrades in Latin America, and it is truly something that we can gain insights from for other regions in the world where farmers are struggling for land. So that wraps up the Speak Out for the Latin American region. Our next region, we will be hearing from representatives from Africa, one from Zambia and another from Kenya. So I will first call on Comrade Gershom Kabaso from Zambia to present. And you have 5 minutes, but try to speak slowly again for our interpreters. And yes, you may start.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Comrade Moderator, for the nice introduction. I'm Gershom Kabaso, the coordinator for Zambia Social Forum, ZAMSOF. At the same time, representing the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty as Africa coordinator. Yes, I just wanted to testify that the issues of land grabs, these are the realities, even in my country, Zambia, where we have seen a number of youths, more especially the vulnerable women, the smallholder farmers, who have been always having challenges in terms of access to control, in terms of land, where they can do the farming practices, as well as the production of food in different varieties. And we have seen that many women, more especially the rural women, they have access to land, which is traditional under customary law. But however, we have seen the challenge where we have a number of multinational corporations that are coming in the name of investment, massive investment, promoting mono type of cropping. If it's maize, it's maize. If it's rice, it's rice. If it's soybeans, it's soybeans, without giving the rights of the local producers to produce what is appropriately culturally acceptable, which is good, coming from good soil, among many others. So one of the drivers of the land grabs in our country is about this forced solution of climate change, forced solution in the name of investment, but at the same time displacing a number of women from their ancestral land. And we have seen a number of investment that are coming with these private financials that are coming in the name of investment. Again, when you find out that most of our young people, the women, they cannot produce what is rightly for them to produce. As a result, there is a contribution in terms of not having enough food in the local consumption, not having enough culturally accepted food in the market. As such, there's been always a challenge for this local production to continue. And one of the three key things that I might state is that there's been always this proportionate impact of women when it comes to the access of capital to land. And we have seen again a number of youth migration that are coming from their ancestral land, migrating to urban for the search of jobs in the industry because they cannot own the land. And most of the land now has been highly commercialized, meaning you cannot have access even a small piece of land. It is costing a lot of kwachas or dollars, which again, most of the women, the smallholder farmers, the youths cannot have access for them to buy those lands. And another one, which is last for me, is about lack of the protection in terms of land tenure, where again, massive of the women, youths, they cannot have proper certification or land titles. And you find that the land which is supposed to be for their generation and generation to come, it is always cut short. Why? Because of the fueling of this multinational corporation that are coming in the name of investment and displacing mainly the majority. And we have got so many cases now that are going on in the local courts. And we have seen again the customary land, which is in the custodian of the traditional leaders, which again, they are also not having the right of them to protect their land because of these issues of corruption and issues for them to benefit, and among many others. So right now, there are a lot of struggles that are happening within the scores of the peasant farmers who are always having issues in terms for them to grow their variety. And this has been fueled by the corporate capture of land, corporate capture of traditional seed, corporate capture of our heritage, and corporate capture of profit before the people. So these struggles are still going on and on. So what we are calling upon from
Sorry,
our
Comrade Gershom, you have 40 seconds to wrap up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So what we are calling upon from our end is to ensure that we produce a multi-solidarity. This solidarity needs to go from Africa to Asia, Latin America, and it needs to grow so that at least it can hear the ears of this multi-cooperation that are coming in the name of force solution and grabbing our lands. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade. Next, may I call on Okaka Onyango from the Revolutionary Socialist League in Kenya. Comrade, I'll give you 6 minutes to give your presentation. Please speak slowly. Thank you.
Yes, Viva Comrades, Viva. I'm happy to be joined with you again. It's always refreshing to organize and talk with comrades from all over the world. Indeed, truly, today is the day of the landless, and I intend to keep it short and particularly focusing on the issues of the landless people, because as it sits today, majority of Africans, especially the youth, of course, who consist the majority of the population. For in this particular case, I'll give the context to Kenya. 70% of us are, don't have a kind of any claim to any land. And with this, I'd love also to pass a commemoration tribute to a very veteran freedom fighter. Somebody's mic is on. Okay. So I was saying today I want to particularly be very proud to speak about our freedom fighters. Today we just were able to, give a proper send-off to a freedom fighter, a veteran freedom fighter, who actually participated in the Mau Mau struggle, which was the struggle for the land, food, and freedom fight in Kenya. And I want to pay tribute to this great general because they were able to fight the mighty British Empire and, chase them away from our lands and be able to, kind of secure the kind of bourgeois freedoms that we enjoy today. And when I reflect with his story, today is that he died very impoverished, a pauper, neglected by the state. And it's the kind of the scenario that we experience today as the Kenyan youth and the majority of the population. And when you look closely to the Inklings, and I don't want to talk so much about imperialism because you understand on its effects and how it has greatly affected Africans here. It is that we were cheated out of our land twice. First by the colonialists when they came and took away our arable land. Understand that Africa has more, actually the 65% of the world's arable land. And yet it left us very much impoverished. When we rose up and resisted this kind of exploitation, what we got in the long run is that the Europeans walked on the front door and came back the back door with, black masks. So we have an elite who are very much focused to continue with the imperialist project. And this is why you saw us in the streets last year when we were processing and, invading the parliament and all this is of power to protest the kind of chains and shackles that we've been put in. Is it because that we've been cheated of our land twice? We own nothing. We are farmers, but we have nowhere to actually be able to dig. And this is the kind of violence you're experiencing when you're looking even the kind of Ruto's brutal regime right now. They have very vast plans to see on how to, create for us what they call affordable homes. And instead, what you are seeing is gentrification. We are facing evictions very soon, which will be, experienced in our informal settlements, going to displace more than 40,000 households. So this is the kind of violence they're always exposed to. And it is an imperialist project because the people behind these demolitions are the World Bank, and of course the sister organization IMF. So this is the kind of struggle that we're experiencing because the constant push towards us having our own land.
Okaka,
Yes.
you have 2 minutes to wrap up, but also please kindly speak slower for the interpreters. Thank you. 2 minutes.
So for the purpose of this great convening today is that we want to actually state that we have been very much solidarity with all the landless people of the world, of course, who are the oppressed. The same kind of tactics that we see being employed in places like Gaza and Israel by settler colonial Israel is the kind of violence that is being exported back to us here in Africa. And for surely and truly, we see that we are being subjected to new tests that are intended to continue exploiting us, the kind of resources that we have. And with this, we call on the international solidarity movement to join us in our push for land, food, and freedom, and to understand that our struggle is half finished. It was actually betrayed, and we look forward to actually continue on persisting with ideological sessions like this. It is important that we continue engaging with the broad masses through political education, always raising the consciousness of our people so that they understand the kind of situation that we are exposed to. The people understand that they are oppressed. They are very clear on whatever it is that is, who is the enemy. And even as we sit here, the Kenyan youth have pushed on that class question, and they are saying that they are not only saying that the kind of matters that are having are leaderless, but it is because we have lost trust on the leadership that we have currently being perpetuated by the African states. And every time we see somebody prop up who's very proper, wants to bring change, they are either overturned through coups or they are assassinated. So our push is that we continue on with the fight and forward to international solidarity forward. Viva.
Thank you so much, comrades Okaka and Gershom, for speaking and representing the region of Africa. And sharing with us the collective experience of peoples with colonial histories, where countries are productive and full of resources, yet whose people remain in dire conditions. And now we will be moving to the last section, or the last region for our Speak Out. We will be hearing from Palestine, or the region of West Asia, North Africa. We have 2 speakers from the Union of Agricultural Work Committees. Oh, sorry, we only have 1 speaker, my bad. We have 1 speaker from the Union of Agricultural Work Committees in Palestine. May I call on Moayad Basharat to give the presentation. Comrade, again, I give you 6 minutes, and please speak slowly for our interpreters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is like a great opportunity for us in Palestine to talk about the landless and the landless day, and the International Landless Day. Tomorrow, it's like 30 March, is the commemoration of the Palestinian Land Day, and so it's like connected and joined to this anniversaries for the Palestinian struggle. The issue of land days started in 1976 when the Israeli occupation government started to declare the confiscation of more than 20 kilometers square of land in the Palestinian land in 1948 land, and the Palestinian inside this area making like civil non-violent demonstration. And according to during the demonstration, the Israeli killed 6 Palestinian and injured 100 and arrested hundreds of Palestinians. So according to that, the Palestinian, as a protection for the land, they announced 30th of March is the day of the land day of Palestine. And on other hand, we're talking about like the landless and its connection and communication to Palestinian issue. Israel started in 1948 to convert the Palestinian who are farmers, land grower, and food producer from farmers living in villages to refugees and the people who are forcibly displaced from their community. So in 1948, the Israeli occupation forcibly displaced more than 800,000 Palestinians, and they killed more than 10,000 Palestinians also. And they displaced and migrated 530 Palestinian villages, which is this is a rural areas that the Palestinian and the historical Palestine used to produce their own food. And they continuous this action, which is the colonial project in Palestine in 76 decades, and it's continuous in First Intifada in 1980s, and even in Second Intifada in 2000, and also what's happening now, the genocide war in Gaza Strip. So the Israeli, even in Gaza Strip, they converting 2.3 million Palestinians from people who can produce their own food, which is the area in Gaza Strip that the Palestinians use to cultivate and to produce their own food. It's like 41% of the total area of Gaza Strip. During this genocide, Israel destroyed totally and partially 85% of the total agricultural land and marine area in Gaza Strip, which meaning they're converting the whole population to people who can produce their own food to people who are waiting the relief and humanitarian relief from international agencies. In the same time, they are working to dismantle the UNRWA, which is the UN agency to relieve the Palestinian refugees. So they're using even the food as like a weapon to starvation and collective punishment for the whole Palestinian in both Gaza Strip and West Bank. In West Bank also, they are using the colonial project to evacuate the Palestinian existence from areas which is Area C, according to Oslo Agreement in 1993, which is Area C. It's confirmed or form 60% of West Bank to become annexed to the Israeli government. So we're talking about more than 800,000 Israeli settlers and more than 250 Israeli settlements now in West Bank, which is meaning that they are making like a change in demographic situation in West Bank, and they're making the Palestinian who living on agriculture and who owning the land to become a landless and to become like a people who are working inside Israeli settlement in a very low daily wages, and to abandon and to leave their community. The last thing after I finish, which is I'm talking about recommendation about this. We're talking about we are believing as a Palestinian for the international solidarity, which is a stand up with the Palestinian issue in general. We're talking about doing a lot of effort to making a sanction against Israel, which is commercial, economic, academic sanction. we making and we call for making pressure to hold Israel accountable as a state that violate human rights and violate international law, and to prosecute its leader as a war criminals. Thanks a lot for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Comrade Muayyad. This entire program and the organizers that are working to facilitate and bring this to fruition are all strongly in solidarity and in support with the Palestinian people, as well as our comrades fighting against the very violent and deadly genocidal war and occupation of Israel in Palestine. And we reaffirm our support for the Palestinian people and the Palestinian people's struggle for land, and how waging the struggle for land in Palestine and winning it will be a landmark win for everyone else in the world who is fighting for land. Now, we have concluded the Speak Out for all regions in the program. And I am now supposed to let you know that we have circulated a statement, a sign-on solidarity statement on this day, March 29th, Day of the Landless, where we assert the need to intensify peasant struggle against imperialist plunder, war, and militarism. And as of today, we have gathered over 300 signatures from mass organizations from Europe, Asia, and the Pacific, Africa, and Latin America. I will now ask our tech support to please project an excerpt of the statement that we have prepared. For everyone who would still like to signify their solidarity and support on this statement, the Google Forms or the link to the forms is available in the chat. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Solidarity greetings from the Philippines and from the farmers here in Bicol. Statement for the 2025 Day of the Landless, March 29, 2025. We, peasants, farmers, farm workers, indigenous peoples, fisher folks, pastoralists, herders, rural women, rural youth and children, along with our organizations, coalitions, networks, and allies in civil society organizations reaffirm the anti-imperialist position and the centrality of peasant struggle for land, food, and justice in achieving sustainable agriculture and food for all. We register our collective objection and resistance to US-led war and militarism, expanding the corporate and private capture of the world's resources, such as land and water, and the co-optation of climate recovery solutions. We oppose the US-backed Israel's genocidal war against Palestine, Lebanese, Syrians, and Yemenis that continues to expand, especially in Gaza, despite reaching ceasefire agreements. And we decry the people of Asia-Pacific priming the region for war against China with ally states by building its military bases, seeking security agreements, and military partnerships that embolden counter-insurgency programs and holding big war exercises. That imperialist expansion and capture of communities and food systems facilitated through technology, greenwashing, and supposed carbon offsetting practices that put market interest first before genuine development. The infrastructure needed for this so-called sustainable These barter alternatives displace peasants and the rural poor from their land, uses up water, resources, and critical minerals needed by countries. We condemn government sweeping neoliberal programs that convert land from sites of self-sustaining food production to serving corporate agricultural demand for profit, and not only disrupt established farmer practices, but also displaces and further marginalize their served communities. It is clear that military expansion and agricultural vigilantization go hand in hand in rationalizing the profit-driven production rather than collective nutrition and national development. We clarify our position for technological advancement that genuinely uplift people's lives and fairly distribute the fruit of people's labor rather than prioritize private profit and becoming a subsidiary market for weapons development for war and mass coercion. In this year's Day of the Landless, we, the undersigned, reaffirmed our commitment to arousing, organizing, and mobilizing our ranks and the broad peasant masses as formidable force against imperialism. Only through our collective efforts and action can we achieve just demands for land, food, and justice. Peasants' rise for land, intensify peasant struggle against imperialist plunder, war, and dispossession. Down with imperialism.
Thank you, Tech, for your projection support. So we have just heard, so that was Kathy Estavillo. She is currently the Secretary General of the Asian Peasant Coalition. And she's also with the AMIHAN, National Federation of Rural Women in the Philippines. So her background is really the countryside where she is working. Now, I would like to call on to give us a presentation on our struggles ahead, as well as to give us illumination on what the challenges are to the peasantry and the rural poor, which will be delivered by Victor Garces, the Vice Chair for Internal from the International League of People's Struggle. You have 10 minutes to give this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello?
Yes, please, you may go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good evening, good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for inviting me here. Indeed, in this time of crisis, in this time of uncertainty, we will expect more exploitation, more hardship for everyone. And because of that, facing further conflict and even war is facing us. But for all our communities and for everyone, land is a security. And that's for a security for livelihood, a security for our homes, security for our communities, because we needed to be rooted to our land. And therefore, it's important for us to fight for our land. To achieve this, I think it's important that we pay attention to building our power. A people power organizations, the mass organizations of the peasants, of women, the rural youth, the indigenous communities everywhere who are rooted to their land and necessarily have to fight for their land. The first important thing is to ensure the strength of our organizations. We have to pay attention to mass education to ensure that everyone understands the issue and are committed both to the community and the organization and each other to fight, to reach out to others too, so that we are able to create a strong community. So the first task for us then is to build our strong organizations, build our power as our fighting people. The second challenge for us is to engage in active defense. To defend our life and our community, we have to be active, we have to be militant to ensure our control of our resources, the land, our waters, and our farms. We need to take back control of the land. And this is a question of different situations that we have. There will be others who have occupied our lands or have taken our lands from us, landlords, foreigners, and therefore it is important to continue to fight, to occupy our lands, to ensure our communities. In the end, we have to bring together the different organizations to strengthen our national liberation, our national independence, our national sovereignty. All of us, whether farmers, rural workers, women, including the workers in the urban areas, we need to be committed to food sovereignty, to be committed to national liberation. And from there, we also need to reach out to each other across the seas for an international solidarity that is premised on a militant assertion of each other's independence and sovereignty, but at the same time also able to reach out to each other, to support each other. And this way, we create further understanding in the world today that is premised on fighting imperialism, fighting other reactionary forces that are controlling our land. We face a situation in the world today by which you have the structures in each country that is controlled by the ruling classes, our governments, the bureaucrats that are puppets of imperialism. Imperialism also comes to us in the form of their institutions, the IMF and the World Bank. But in the end, it's about their corporations, the transnational corporations that are trading, exploiting through lower prices of our products, exploiting us through the inputs, destroying our waters, our forests, through mining, through different development, so-called development projects. In the end, all of these have to be faced consciously by our organizations. And therefore, the fundamental responsibility for us is to develop our people power organizations, the people power organizations of the peasants, the organizations of the indigenous, the youth, and women, which becomes the foundation of strong national movements in each of our country. And these national movements are the ones that create the condition by which we are able to fight the corporations and the powers that are actually competing against each other, taking over our land, and in the process, of course, creating a new danger for the world. On one hand, it's the danger of war and conflict. And then on the other hand, you have the danger of climate change, the destruction of the environment, because precisely of the plunder, the exploitation, the pollution that has been created by imperialism. In the end, it's important that we bring the struggles on the day-to-day in the context of our organizations in building our strength to face the issues of land, the issues of livelihood, the issues of the prices of our commodities, the prices of our products, the different issues of the government's imposition of taxes and others. All of this in the end should be handled by our organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Victor. One very striking thing that has marked me from that intervention is the need for us mass organizations, people's organizations, to continue our educational work in raising the political consciousness of our communities, and from there building a broad and very solid solidarity, first from our communities, and then bridging internationally, and it is only then with the joint forces of the people will we be able to really make genuine and sustainable changes that will benefit the democratic majority of the world versus the few elites. We've come to the end of the program. And thank you again, Comrade Victor, for your intervention. I will now call on the chairperson of the International League of People's Struggles, Len Cooper, to formally close this activity. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Okay, members.
Thank you, Bianca, very much. And thank you for the invitation to say a few words. It is an honour to be invited here. I congratulate the movements and organisations that have worked to highlight the pressing peasant struggles and campaigns that are taking place in Asia, Latin America, and Africa. The issues are stark. Issues like land dispossession in the interests of the already wealthy, savage inequality, environmental destruction, and imperialist generated war. You have exposed and identified the issues very well, and you have identified the forces driving this exploitation, the forces that have been exposed and have to be exposed and opposed. You've correctly highlighted the collective actions of rural populations fighting for justice and self-determination from imperialism. And as the ILPS General Secretary Azra Talat Saeed and the ILPS Vice Chair Internal Victor Garces and others have correctly said today, the current imperialist plunder, militarism and war is the driving force of the brutal exploitation of the rural communities across the globe. The brutal conditions faced by rural communities across the globe are being driven by the United States and other imperialist powers
who continue to seek control of the natural resources, land, poorly paid labour, and strategic value of countries and areas of the world in order to achieve their frantic drive for the maximum profit. You have shown in inspiring fashion the enduring fight back being waged by peasants and other rural workers against all odds. There are many brilliant examples of the people successfully fighting against domination and attempted domination by the imperialist powers, by the colonial powers since the early 1900s and even before. To focus on just some of those examples of this resistance. The Russian Revolution in 1917 by peasants and workers, the Chinese liberation in 1949, again by peasants and workers, and the enormous achievements for the people made by these revolutions for decades afterwards. The successful liberation struggles in Cuba, in Vietnam and other parts of Indochina, in Venezuela and other parts of Latin America, in the Congo and other places in Africa, in Yemen and in Palestine and other parts of the Middle East, in North Korea and others. In places like the Philippines, Kurdistan, India and Palestine, etc., the people are taking the path of armed struggle as well to eventually help win their liberation from imperialism. It is the unity and solidarity between the workers and peasants and other rural workers that has been the driving force of our victory. In the period ahead, the growth of the people's movements and their success will be even more spectacular because imperialism is in acute crisis and deteriorating. I'm not for 1 minute suggesting it will get easier for us, but I'm suggesting the situation opens up even greater possibilities for us all. If we continue to mobilise the peasants and other rural workers as you have done and are doing, and if we continue to mobilise the working class across the globe in solidarity with the peasants, then victory is assured. I would like to congratulate Commission 6 of the ILPS. It's the host of this Speak Out. Of course, Commission 6 is only one of nearly 20 separate ILPS commissions, each one representing a central concern of the ILPS in its work for the people of the globe. Commission 6 is for agrarian reform and rights of the peasants, farm workers and fisher folk against feudal, semi-feudal, capitalist exploitation and oppression. This program today is organised by the ILPS Commission 6, the ILPS General Secretariat and the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty. Thank you for your support, advice and information. We wish you well in your struggles and victories. Long live international solidarity, and from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Len. Indeed, the victory of the people is without a broad and committed alliance between workers and peasants for the democratic interests of the productive class. With that, we are ending the program. But first, before I let everyone go, I would like to acknowledge and express our appreciation to everyone who joined us that are coming from different time zones. Some of us, for some of us, it's the evening. For some of us, it's the morning. But I would also like to thank our interpreters for helping us facilitate this program. And I would also like to thank the organizers behind this activity, the ILPS Commission 6, the PCFS and PAN-AP, along with APC or the Asian Peasant Coalition. Just to remind everyone, tomorrow, March 30th, is Palestine Land Day. And our organizations and coalitions are going to be exerting various efforts to amplify this day. So we are looking forward to your collaboration and support by writing or releasing statements and even connecting with us and helping us lift and amplify this day. Again, our calls for the Global Landless Speakout is for peasants to rise for land and intensify the peasant struggle against imperialist plunder, war, and militarism. We must assert our rights to our resources and reclaim our food systems. Thank you again, everyone. This is where I end. Long live international solidarity. Maraming salamat po. Terima kasih. Merci. Gracias. And see you all again in our efforts. Please sign our statement and get in touch with us, the organizers, for future collaborations. Thank you very much and have a nice day, evening, week. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Can we
Thank
take
you
a
very
group
much.
photo?
Thank you, comrades.
Can we request everyone to please open their cameras? Let's take a group photo. Because there are
Sorry.
quite
For
a number
everyone
of us
who's still
here.
around, could we kindly take a picture? Can everyone who's still here just turn on their cameras briefly? Sorry, I forgot about this. Just for photo opportunity. Okay, we're ready.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Javan, how are you, Javan?
Okay, everyone, can we raise our fists?
From Japan.
Hi, bye. Khalid, bye.
How are you,
Count. 1, 2, 3.
Did we do it? Did it work?
It worked.
Okay.
We took a few shots. Okay.
Thank you,
I think we
comrades.
can
Thank you
let
very
everyone
much.
go
Thank you,
now.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Please send us the
Bye-bye.
video
Thank you.
Javan,
of the presentation.
Rafa, bye.